Good evening, friends. It is the last night of Elul. Tomorrow night starts Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Jewish New Year. We are reading passages from Inner Work, the teachings of Rav Ashlag. We're on page 53. God does not have two desires, but only one unchanging desire: to give goodness. This is the meaning of God's desire being simple and without division. This is also the idea of quote-unquote oneness. God's desire is one, even though it looks like the opposite. So God does not have two desires, but only one unchanging desire, and that desire is to give goodness. It's interesting because even to put it in the language of desire isn't exactly right, because desire denotes lack. If you desire something, you are longing for it because you're lacking it. But the Hebrew word is ratzon, and ratzon means will. So God has one will, and that will is to give goodness. God lacks nothing, only wants to give, only is giving. God is giving goodness. This is the meaning of God's desire being simple and without division. Simple, without division, just to give goodness, to be love. This is also the idea of oneness, quote-unquote oneness, ha'achdut, because God's desire is one, it's unified. His will is one, the will to give goodness, to be goodness, to shine forth the light of love and oneness. God's desire is one, His ratzon is one, even though it looks like the opposite. Right? It looks, when we look at the world, that there could be multiple desires of God's. Just from the external phenomena that we observe. But underneath it all, the truth is God is oneness, and God has one desire, one ratzon, one will, to be the unity and to give goodness, which is to give creation the experience of being united with the divine. For us as finite creatures, as finite matter, to have the experience of, in our essence, being an extension of the one. That is the goodness that God is giving us, wants to give us, desires to give us, and that is the oneness itself. So it's intertwined. So our coming down from the infinite light and coming into, through a stage-by-stage process, coming into finite reality, and then finite reality having consciousness, human consciousness, and then the consciousness is able to reflect on itself that we are creation, and that the creation can reflect on its root and on its source, being the light, being the oneness, and that as creation we have an experience of being an extension of God. We have an experience of being the unity, which is the greatest pleasure a human being can experience. We have a tradition that the sages hid their words by spreading them out in the holy books, and that only by going truly in their way will we know how to combine the matters properly. Right? So the sages hid their words by spreading them out throughout the holy books, spreading them out in the holy books. So, meaning it's not like they're all, like the words of wisdom are just straight to read in a book, right? It's saying that they're sprinkled, that they're hidden throughout the holy books, and that only by truly going in their way, in the way of the sages and the way of the righteous, only then can we know how to combine the matters properly. Only then can we know how to combine the different hidden teachings that are throughout all of the holy books. We are where our thoughts are. One sentence passage. We are where our thoughts are, right? So if our thoughts are in love, we are in love. If our thoughts are in anger, we are in anger. If our thoughts are in hatred, we are in hatred. If our thoughts are in desire for pleasure, we are in desire for pleasure. Our thoughts reflect where we are, where our consciousness is residing. Page 54. We are able to understand the true meaning of the Zohar only to the extent that we want to nullify our selfish desires and want to attain the desire to give. Otherwise, an aspect within ourselves conceals the inner meaning, and the Zohar is only understood in an external way that is comfortable to our ego. We can see that people who are not working on themselves spiritually are unable to understand what is written in the holy spiritual writings. This is true even with regard to people who are very intelligent. Right? So we're able to understand the true meaning of the Zohar and the spiritual writings, the spiritual teachings, only to the extent that we want to nullify our selfish desires to receive, and that we want to attain the desire to give. We're only really truly able to understand the true meanings of these holy teachings to the extent that we want to nullify our selfish desires, our sense of separate self, and that we want to attain a unity consciousness, that we want to see how we're connected to all life and to all creatures and all beings, and we want to attain a desire to give. Otherwise, there's an aspect within ourselves that will continue to conceal the inner meaning. It won't like as long as the ego is still sort of thriving in its sense of separateness, it will be concealing the deeper inner meaning of these teachings. The Zohar will only be understood in an external way. It'll be understood in sort of on the surface or a knowledge-based way, but not in our beings. It's only understood in our beings to the extent that we have nullified ourselves and our selfish tendencies, and we've embraced a sense of unity consciousness, of connective nature, not seeing ourselves any longer as these separate ego, separate identity selves, but as extensions of the divine. When we do that, the inner meanings of these teachings can penetrate into our being. Right? Otherwise, it's only understood in an external way that is comfortable to our ego, that our ego can palate. We can see that the people who are not working on themselves spiritually are unable to understand what is written in the holy spiritual writings. This is true even with regard to people who are very intelligent, right? It doesn't matter how smart you are, like the Rav has said many, many times before. You'll only understand it through intelligence, through your mind, through mental, cognitive grasping. It won't go through and penetrate to the depth of your being, to your soul, unless you're committed to shedding that separate sense of self and embracing unity consciousness of being connected to all, that your neighbor is not separate from you in the deepest way possible. Okay, final passage for the night and for the year of 5785. When we reach the rectified state in which all our actions are in order to give, we then see that all the pain and suffering in the world comes from God's desire to bestow goodness, and that every situation plays a part in the bestowal of goodness. Wow. Wow. So when we reach the rectified state of tikkun, mitaken et maasav, excuse me, when we reach that rectified state of tikkun, in which all our actions are in order to give, meaning we are in full unity consciousness, we're in full connection to the divine. We are no longer attached to a separate sense of self. We've integrated our separate sense of self. We've integrated our traumas and our karma, both our personal karma and traumas and our ancestral karma and traumas. We've integrated those into the unity consciousness. They are integrated. They're no longer separate things. And we recognize who we are, where we are, and what our purpose is, what the purpose of creation is. To receive all the light and to serve the divine and to serve everyone else's awakening and healing. Once we've reached that rectified state, then we see that all the pain and suffering in the world comes from God's desire to bestow goodness, and that every situation plays a part in the bestowal of goodness. Right? So obviously at this stage in the game, this is going to seem foreign to us, and we're going to bring up all the different scenarios and all the historical events, all the situations where how can the pain and suffering of the Holocaust be coming from God's desire to bestow goodness, right? Right now on a cognitive level, we can't understand it. It's not meant to be understood. You can only understand it once you've reached this rectified state of tikkun that we've been describing. But right now, all we can do is surmise about it and theorize and say, okay, I'm going to hold in my emunah, in my embodied faith, that at some stage in the game, I will understand that all the pain and suffering in the world comes from God's desire to bestow goodness. Right now, I can sort of start to understand it in terms of that everything that's happening is part of the journey of healing and awakening. Without darkness, there could be no light. If it was all light, like it was in the beginning of creation, there was no sense of self. There was no sense of self, separate self, to receive the light, to experience the light, to experience the pleasure of unity consciousness. It was just unity consciousness. So God had to take away the light, which created the vessel, the sense of separate self, lacking the light. And then, through this stage-by-stage process, we come back to that state of unity consciousness, but we keep a separate sense of self. We keep the vessel. This is the vessel, the container. and now the light comes into the container, and they're unified again, but with this I lost the word. I totally lost the word. The thing you can't, this thing you can't understand, that the vessel maintains a sense of itself, even though it's within the unity consciousness. And thereby we can see and understand that that everything that's happened in the past was in order to get to this unfolding of Geulah, which means redemption, for all of humanity. And it couldn't have happened without this, every single stage and every single step in the process. And that it all comes from God's desire to bestow goodness. And that it wasn't God who did the Holocaust, it was human beings from their lack of being connected to the light, from their addiction and grasping to be separate selves and to create others and other people, right? To say, I'm a German and you're a Jew, I'm a Nazi and you're a Jew, and a Jew means this, and you're separate from me, and we dehumanize you and turn you into something that's not human, so that then I don't have a conscientious objection to destroying you. I don't have a conscientious objection to othering and defiling and attacking you, because you're not human. You're separate from me. It's the pinnacle expression of separateness, and what can happen when we create separate selves and other people and make them so separate from us that we, in our conscience doesn't have a problem with killing them, murdering them. So God didn't do it, human beings did it from a lack of connection to the light. And thus that we continue to make these tikkunim, these rectifications, and come into a state of complete rectification. We see what has happened, and we see how it has happened from being disconnected from the light. And that all we want now is to be connected to the light and to help others connect to the light, so we can live in harmony and unity, come back to that rectified state of unity consciousness and healing for everyone. And we understand that every situation plays a part in the bestowal of goodness. It's also that every situation plays a part in the bestowal of goodness means that every situation in the end will be rectified. Every situation in history will play a part in the bestowal of goodness through its rectification, through its tikkun. It will then play a part in the bestowal of goodness. Okay, so there you have it. The last night of 5785. Tomorrow night I will not be here. I'll be celebrating Rosh Hashanah. We'll see you back the following night, or perhaps the night after that, as Rosh Hashanah is 2 nights long. I hope you've enjoyed this journey so far. Wishing you a Shana Tova, a year full of healing and awakening, tikkun, spiritual repair, shedding more and more a sense of separateness, coming deeper and deeper into a sense of connection with God, connection with all other human beings, connection with divine will and divine purpose for creation, and bringing more light and love into this world that desperately needs it. So bless you all, and I hope you'll bless me back, that we continue on this sacred journey together. I look forward to seeing you in the new year.